If you live in a multi-person household, there's a good chance your cat has already made a decision that nobody in that house gets to vote on. Out of everyone who feeds them, pets them, cleans their litter box, and buys their toys, your cat has quietly picked one person, one favorite. And if you are not that person, you have probably felt it. That small sting when your cat walks straight past you and climbs into somebody else's lap instead, like you are furniture they occasionally tolerate. It can feel arbitrary, even a little unfair, especially if you are the one who does most of the actual care. But it is not random at all. There is real, fascinating science behind exactly how and why cats pick their person. And once you understand the mechanics behind it, you will start noticing the signals everywhere, and maybe even find a way to become that person yourself. So today, we are breaking down the actual research on feline attachment, what really determines a cat's favorite human, and whether that bond can change over time. If this is your first time here, welcome to Cat Rules, where we translate the actual science of cat behavior into something you can use in your living room, not just something you read in a journal. Let's get into it. First, let's kill a myth right at the start, because it colors this entire topic. Cats are not simply loyal to whoever feeds them. This is one of the most persistent misconceptions about feline behavior, the idea that a cat's affection is purely transactional, tied to the hand that fills the bowl. Actual attachment research tells a very different story. Multiple studies on cat-human bonding have found that food provision alone is a surprisingly weak predictor of which person a cat bonds with most strongly. In households where one person handles all the feeding and another handles play, comfort, and quiet time together, cats consistently gravitate toward the second person more often than the first. Food gets a reaction, but it does not build a relationship. What actually builds a relationship, according to the data, is something much closer to what builds relationships between humans: consistency, emotional attunement, and respect for boundaries. Keep that in mind as we go through the rest of this, because almost everything that follows traces back to those three things. So let's start with the first major factor: voice and tone. Cats have remarkably sensitive hearing, capable of detecting a far wider range of frequencies than humans can, and they use that sensitivity constantly to read the emotional content of the voices around them. Research on cat vocal perception has shown that cats can distinguish their own person's voice from a stranger's voice, even when the words are identical, purely based on tone and cadence. But here is the part that matters for this conversation specifically. Cats do not just recognize voices, they form preferences around them. A soft, warm, moderately pitched voice tends to be read by cats as safe and inviting. A flat, harsh, or unpredictable tone, even without any actual anger behind it, tends to be read as tense or threatening. If one person in your household naturally speaks to the cat in a gentle, consistent way, narrating small things, using a calm register even during ordinary moments, that person is depositing tiny amounts of trust every single day without even realizing it. Over months and years, that adds up to something that looks, from the outside, like favoritism, but is really just accumulated positive association. The second major factor is something researchers call respecting the approach. This might be the single biggest differentiator between a cat's favorite person and everyone else in the house, and it has almost nothing to do with how much that person loves the cat, and everything to do with how that person behaves around the cat. Favorite people, according to observational studies on cat-human interaction, are disproportionately the ones who let the cat initiate contact rather than forcing it. They wait for the cat to approach. They offer a hand low and slow rather than reaching directly for the head. And critically, when the cat says no, whether that is a flattened ear, a tail flick, or simply walking away, they actually stop. This sounds almost too simple to be the deciding factor in an entire relationship, but the data backs it up consistently. Cats who are chased for affection, picked up against their will, or held past. Their comfort point, even by someone who deeply loves them, tend to form weaker attachment bonds with that person over time, while cats who are allowed to control the terms of physical contact tend to seek that person out far more voluntarily. In other words, the person who respects the cat's autonomy the most often ends up with the most affection in return, which is a strange kind of parenting lesson hiding inside cat behavior research. The third factor, and this one surprises a lot of people, is emotional stability, not emotional intensity. You might assume the person who showers a cat with the most enthusiastic affection would win out, but that is often not what happens. Cats are extraordinarily sensitive to unpredictability, and a person whose energy swings wildly, even in positive directions, loud excitement one moment, distracted ignoring the next, can actually read as more stressful to a cat than a person who is simply calm and consistent, even if that consistent person shows less outward affection overall. Think about it from the cat's perspective for a moment. Their entire nervous system is built around detecting patterns and reacting to deviations from those patterns, an evolutionary holdover from needing to notice subtle environmental changes that might signal danger. A person who is reliably the same tone, same rhythm, same reactions, becomes a known quantity, a safe constant in an environment the cat is constantly, instinctively scanning for threats. That predictability is worth more to a cat's nervous system than any amount of enthusiastic cuddling from someone whose behavior is harder to forecast. Now let's talk about something almost nobody considers: scent memory. Because this factor operates almost entirely below human awareness and yet plays an enormous role in feline attachment. A cat's sense of smell is dramatically more developed than ours. Built around a huge number of scent receptors and a specialized organ in the roof of their mouth called the vomeronasal organ, which lets them analyze complex chemical information in ways we cannot even conceptualize. Every person in your household has a distinct scent signature, shaped by everything from soap and laundry detergent to natural body chemistry, diet, and even stress hormones released through sweat. Cats build detailed scent profiles of the people around them, and those profiles get updated constantly based on emotional state. A person who is frequently stressed and whose body chemistry reflects that stress through subtle hormonal changes in their scent may register to a cat's nose as subtly less safe, even if that person's behavior toward the cat is perfectly gentle. This is part of why some cats seem to gravitate toward the calmest person in a household almost instinctively. They are not just reading behavior, they are reading actual chemistry. If you are enjoying learning the real science behind these behaviors instead of just guessing, that is exactly what this channel is for. So go ahead and hit subscribe, because we have a full library of videos breaking down exactly what is going on inside your cat's mind. And there is a piece of this favorite person puzzle coming up that most owners have never even considered. Let's talk about timing, specifically the critical window early in a cat's life. Kittens go through what behaviorists call a socialization period, typically somewhere between 2 and 7 weeks of age, during which their brains are exceptionally receptive to forming positive associations with humans, other animals, and new experiences. A kitten who receives gentle, positive handling from a particular person during this window can form an unusually strong and durable attachment to that person, one that can persist for the rest of the cat's life, essentially becoming a kind of imprinted safety figure. This is part of why the person who bottle-fed a kitten, or who was simply present and gentle during those first critical weeks, sometimes remains the cat's clear favorite decades later, even if other people in the household have since spent far more total hours with the cat. Early experience carries outsized weight in feline psychology, the same way early childhood experiences carry outsized weight in human psychology. And it is one of the few factors on this list that a person joining a cat's life later simply cannot fully replicate. Though, as we will get to shortly, that does not mean the bond cannot still grow. Another factor worth understanding is what researchers sometimes call activity synchrony, essentially, whether a person's schedule and energy naturally lines up with the cat's own rhythms. Cats are crepuscular, most naturally active around dawn and dusk, and a person whose daily patterns happen to overlap with those windows, someone who is home and relaxed in the early morning or early evening, simply gets more opportunities for positive interaction during the times a cat is naturally inclined to engage. This is not really about effort or love. It is closer to simple math. More overlapping active time creates more chances to build the kind of small, repeated positive interactions that form deep attachment. A person who works long hours and is only home during a cat's natural low-energy afternoon nap window may genuinely adore their cat just as much as anyone else in the house, but simply has fewer natural openings to build that moment-by-moment trust that accumulates into a favorite person. Bond. Here is a question worth sitting with for a second. Does your cat's favorite person change depending on what is happening in your household? Because it often does, and that alone tells you something important, that this bond is not fixed. It is dynamic, responsive, and built continuously rather than decided once and locked in forever. Let's get into a factor that ties everything together, and it is the one with the most emotional weight: presence. During vulnerability. Cats remember with surprising specificity who was around during moments when they felt frightened, sick, or unsafe, and how that person responded. A cat who was calmly held and comforted during a stressful vet visit, a loud thunderstorm, or an illness by a particular person tends to form an intensified bond with that specific individual afterward, almost as if that moment of shared vulnerability functioned as a kind of relationship accelerant. This lines up with what we know about attachment in general, that trust deepens most rapidly not during easy, comfortable moments, but during moments where one party genuinely needed support and received it. If you have ever noticed your cat becoming noticeably closer to you after nursing them through an illness, or after a scary trip to the vet where you stayed calm and present, this is exactly why. You did not just take care of a task, you passed a trust test that your cat's nervous system was quietly running the entire time. Before we get into how to actually shift this dynamic, it is worth pausing to check something, because a lot of owners assume they are not the favorite simply because their cat is not constantly glued to their lap, when in reality they might be reading the wrong signals entirely. Favorite status does not always look like non-stop cuddling. Watch for the quieter tells instead. Does your cat sleep somewhere near you, even if not directly on you, choosing the same room you are in over an empty, quiet room elsewhere in the house? That is a strong signal, because sleep is the single most vulnerable state a cat enters, and proximity during sleep is rarely accidental. Does your cat slow blink at you? That long, deliberate, half-closed eye gesture, sometimes called a cat kiss. That is a voluntary, low-cost signal of comfort that cats generally reserve for people they feel safe around. Does your cat bring you things? A toy, a sock, occasionally something less pleasant, and drop it near you specifically? That behavior echoes the way a mother cat provisions her kittens, and directing it at a specific person is a meaningful, targeted gesture, not a random one. Does your cat show you their belly even if they do not want it touched? Exposing that vulnerable area in front of a specific person, and not others, is a strong statement about who they trust most in a room. And finally, does your cat check on you, wandering over during a quiet moment just to sit nearby, not asking for anything, not demanding food or play, just present? That kind of low stakes, no agenda closeness is often one of the clearest favorite person signals there is, because it costs the cat nothing to skip it, and yet they choose not to. If several of these sound familiar, you may already be the favorite or close to it, even if the more obvious, attention-grabbing affection is going to someone else in the house. There is one more myth worth addressing directly, because it comes up in nearly every comment section on this topic. The idea that cats simply prefer women over men, or prefer quiet people over loud people, as some kind of fixed rule. The honest answer is more nuanced than that and more interesting. It is true that, on average, women's voices tend to sit in a higher, softer register that can read as less threatening to a cat's ear. And it is also true that cats raised primarily around calm, low-key people may generalize that preference towards similar personalities later on. But neither of these is a hard rule, and treating them as one causes a lot of unnecessary discouragement. Plenty of cats form intensely close bonds with men, with loud, energetic people, with children, with people who do not match the stereotype at all, simply because those specific individuals happen to build the trust markers we have been talking about this entire video: consistent tone, respected boundaries, presence during vulnerable moments. Gender, voice pitch, and general personality can tilt the odds slightly in a statistical sense across large populations of cats, but they do not override individual relationship history. And individual relationship history is, by a wide margin, the strongest predictor of all. In other words, do not assume you are permanently disqualified from favorite status because of some broad demographic trend. Your specific cat is responding to your specific behavior, not to a category you happen to belong to. So, does this mean the favorite person title is permanent, fixed the moment it forms? Not at all, and this is genuinely good news if you are not currently your cat's favorite. Feline attachment, while shaped heavily by early experience, remains meaningfully plastic throughout a cat's life. Consistent, low pressure, positive interaction over time can shift a cat's preference, sometimes significantly, especially if the current favorite person's circumstances change. More travel, a new job, less available time, or if the aspiring favorite person deliberately builds the behaviors we just talked about. Calm tone, respecting boundaries, showing up during vulnerable moments, and simply being reliably present. This is not a guarantee. Some bonds, especially ones formed during a kitten's critical socialization window, are genuinely difficult to fully unseat, but meaningful movement is absolutely possible. And many multi-cat, multi-person households have watched a favorite shift entirely over the course of a year or two of intentional, patient effort. If you are specifically trying to become your cat's favorite person, or simply deepen the bond you already have, here is a practical approach built directly from everything we just covered. Start with voice. Speak to your cat in a calm, warm, moderately low register, even during mundane moments, not just when you want their attention. Next, practice letting them come to you. Resist the urge to scoop them up or chase affection. Offer your hand low and open, and let them close the distance on their own terms. When they do approach, actually pay attention to their signals during the interaction, and stop the moment you see any sign of discomfort, even a small one, rather than pushing until they walk away frustrated. Try to be present, even quietly during their natural active windows, early morning or early evening, rather than only interacting when it is convenient for your own schedule. And if a stressful moment comes along, a vet visit, a scary noise, an illness, make yourself the calm, steady presence in that moment if you can, because that single instance of reliable comfort can do more for your bond than months of ordinary petting. One more thing worth mentioning, because it comes up constantly in the comments whenever this topic gets discussed: having a favorite person does not mean your cat does not love everyone else in the household. Attachment research on cats increasingly supports the idea that cats can form genuine, meaningful bonds with multiple people simultaneously. It is simply that those bonds are not identical in depth or expression. Your cat might trust one person completely with vulnerable moments like grooming or sleep, while genuinely enjoying rowdy play sessions with someone else and seeking a third person specifically for quiet company. Favorite does not mean exclusive, it means primary, and primary status is far more fluid and far less personal than it can feel in the moment when you are the one being walked past for the third time this week. Before you go, I want to hear this from you specifically. Who is your cat's favorite person in your household, and did anything about the reasons we covered today actually explain why? Maybe you are the quiet, steady one who was there during a scary vet visit. Maybe you are the one who happened to bottle feed them as a kitten. Maybe, and be honest here, you are the one who has been unintentionally reaching for their head too fast for years without realizing it was costing you points. Drop it in the comments, genuinely. These stories are some of the best parts of this community, and I read every single one. If you learned something today that changes how you are going to approach your cat tonight, that is exactly the point of this channel. Real science applied in your actual living room. Subscribe if you have not already, because we have a lot more of this coming. The kind of content that finally explains the things about your cat that never quite made sense before. One real answer at a time instead of another, guessed dressed up as an explanation. We will see you in the next one, and tonight, when your cat picks their spot, pay a little closer attention to why.